So what is a systematic literature review? Probably a topic that I could spend a long time on as well. I think to start understanding this, you have to start with the term literature review, which any folks who have spent time in certain kinds of grad school, like I have, are intimately familiar with. It's a painful process, or at least it used to be before we had better technology tools for it. But literature review is simply the process of going out to the published scientific literature and seeing what's been written and learned about a specific topic of interest. And the reason you do this is really because when you're adding new research, when you're adding to the body and domain of scientific knowledge, you want to make sure that you're doing so in a way that builds on what everyone else has accomplished so far. You're not duplicating effort, you're not missing something, you're not contradicting something that's already been proven to be true or not true. That's why we do literature reviews in general. Now, that word systematic literature review, it changes the intensity of this process. A systematic literature review is specifically a process that is used as a part of pharmaceutical development in our context, that is answering a specific research question and has a whole bunch of research architecture and infrastructure around it. That starts with saying, let's define and write down the question that we're answering. Let's write a protocol that's going to describe the steps we're going to take to exhaustively investigate this question. Let's do that investigation in a very transparent, documented, referenceable way. Let's have multiple people check the results, maybe reduplicate some of the process so that we make sure we're all in agreement on both the process and its conclusions. And then let's make sure that we report all of this, again, in a standardized, consumable way so that everybody can access the outputs of the process. And this is something that's required by regulators at a lot of points in the drug development process. It's not something that can be taken lightly or just done in sort of a let me take a stab at it kind of way. It's quite complex, it's quite rigorous, it's quite resource intensive, and it's very different than you might think, just let's look around at some keywords for literature. It's the most rigorous, complicated, high intensity version of that process. For example, something that might prompt a need for a systematic literature review would be to say, I'm investigating new therapies in melanoma, and I'd like to understand all of the results of prior clinical trials, maybe with some boundaries of time or whatever cohort, that have investigated the behavior of therapeutic agents for people with that condition. That's a broad level question, but as you get into the details of that question, you might say, I want to specifically exclude pediatric populations, because a lot of times children respond differently to therapeutics. It's considered a different group. You might also say, I only want to look at certain geographies or maybe certain mechanisms of action with respect to the treatment. I only want to look at certain cohort sizes of patients. I want to look at certain studies that have design aspects with respect to how the clinical trials were set up. So that high level question is what you might start with. And then you'd say, okay, as I work through what I'm actually interested in, let me tweak the criteria for the literature that I need to answer this question specifically, and then go forth and find that literature to figure out what it says about the question I started with. Systematic literature reviews are slow and expensive because they're complicated and high stakes, right? These processes require a lot of manual effort by people who are highly trained, highly skilled, highly expert in what they're doing. They require a lot of cross-checking and sort of duplicative effort, not out of inefficiency, but just because we really want to be able to have confidence in the results. And they are required by regulators in a lot of cases, and that means that there's an additional layer of formalism, of documentation, traceability, auditability that's layered on top, and all of those characteristics add up to quite a bit of time and expense needed to complete these. Keyword searches are a good place to start with respect to biomedical literature review and just literature analysis. And I think keyword searches are not so different from the process any of us would use if we want to get a little bit more educated about a specific topic. I think that where people can fall into trouble is if they think that just looking for the keywords that occur to someone is a sufficient way of capturing the diversity of information available in that area. And I think this is especially true in clinical areas where there can be a whole bunch of different ways that close or similar concepts are expressed. And that's where you need a more rigorous sort of architecture to perform some of those searches and ensure that you're getting both the sort of quality of literature that you're expecting and that you're not missing something because you just didn't think of the right keyword to use. Thinking about how AI can improve systematic literature review, I think the immediate thought is let's just let the AI do all this stuff, right? Look for the relevant literature and summarize everything and it'll be great. And I think that the nucleus of that idea is actually correct. The challenge is when you dig into the weeds of what it means to let AI take over parts of the systematic literature review process, you quickly run into some challenges. The first one is, how do you know that the tool has worked well? How do you ensure that it's accurately finding articles that fit your criteria, and also that it's not missing articles that fit your criteria that are somehow off its radar? So there's quite a lot of subtlety and testing involved in making sure that such an AI system is working in that way. I think the other thing is, when we just at a principle level, AI is probably better served at helping the humans in the systematic literature review process than replacing them, in the sense that there's a lot of sort of tedious tasks as part of the process, but the whole thing requires human oversight to make sure that it's functioning properly, but also that the correct conclusions are being drawn. And I think AI can help us take over some of those more tedious, time-consuming, but maybe lower cognitive tasks throughout the process, and let the researchers spend their time taking a look at the outputs and saying, what does this mean? What is it telling me? Does it make sense? Can I check to make sure that we've been comprehensive? And ultimately, does it meet the original question that launched this whole process in the first place? In that way, AI can, I think, dramatically shorten the time taken to do these things without compromising their quality.